Well, hello everybody. This is Don with Wizard Tower Games, and this evening we kind of have a little bit of an impromptu last-minute live video that we kind of got with. With me is the esteemed creator of Top Secret, Merl Rasmussen. Merle, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Don. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here. I want to get something out of the way real quick. Kind of a weird video tonight because it just so happens we're talking about Top Secret. It's February, and 45 years ago today, or this month, should I say?
This month, yes.
Top
Well,
Secret.
in fact, it was the end of February 1980. The game saw print, and they sent me 24 copies of the original game, and they printed 10,000 to hit the distributors. So that happened. I don't have the exact date, but it was I think the last half of February. And the very good news is the game is still available as Top Secret New World Order, which is like its third version.
Yes.
And I'm still alive, so that means 45 years have passed. And what's funny, you were asking me about the early experience. It started, you're going to love this, and the inspiration was in October of 1975, I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons at Iowa State University in October, and I played this game with some guys, and I thought it was a Halloween game because it was October.
Gotcha.
So that's the first impetus. Then the guys I was playing with put me in charge of the mules, hauling the pack mules through the dungeon, and that was my experience for 4 hours one night. And I was not impressed by medieval fantasy, but I was inspired by the idea of role playing. Now, you can do the psychological shrink thing if you want, but at the time I was trying, I was an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And freshman at Iowa State University, got interested in finding myself. We wear a lot of hats. We wear a lot of develop who you are. And it just so happened I'd grown up watching spy movies and spy TV.
Yep.
You may have heard of James Bond.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think I watched a movie or two about James Bond.
May have seen one or two of those. Well, because of the influence, I didn't know it at the time, but I was writing rules for what would become Top Secret. I called it, you're going to love this, I called it Spy World, which was after Gamma World. So I'd heard of Gamma World, and so mine was going to be called Spy World.
Now, if you don't mind me, just a quick question to that. So basically, the idea of calling it Spy World was not a coincidence. It was actually because Gamma World, and you wanted to kind of make a little bit of a...
Yeah, that sounded like a good game. Gamma World was available, Gamma World. Yeah. Now, what's funny is my combat rules are based on Boot Hill, which is a Wild West role-playing game.
Yep. That was put out by TSR also.
If you see the projectile combat rules, they come out of Boot Hill. Now, the funny part was I had filed my Spy World in my file cabinet at home under Top Secret. It's a top drawer, so it's a Top Secret. And then I found out that the Mike Carr, who at the time was the vice president of production of TSR Hobbies, he had filed the product copy under his file cabinet, Top Secret. And we're communicating with each other, and we said, yeah, the Top Secret game. And I said, wait, that's what I'm calling it, the Top Secret game. And it clicked.
Gotcha.
Didn't realize it at the time. We both filed it under Top Secret. And that worked. There was nothing else. Well, it set the bar. It was the bar. In fact, it was 3 years after the publication of Top Secret that the James Bond 007 role-playing game came along. So I had a 3-year head start on the James Bond game.
Now, let me ask you a question, Merle, real quick about Top Secret and TSR and such. Now, did you go to work for TSR specifically to develop Top Secret, or did you go to work in a different capacity before Top Secret?
You'll love this. I got published, but I had dropped out of college, thinking that I was going to be published any minute. Well, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen for years. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say I get a contract in 1976. They want to see the game in 77. They role play it. We play things. Doesn't get around to being published till 1980. Meanwhile, I've dropped out of college. I'm working other jobs. I've tried to be a physician's assistant. Actually, I became a hospital orderly.
Mm-hmm.
Worked as a media production technician for an area educational agency. For my own company called Game Room Productions in Minden, Iowa,
And
creating
did
one. Yeah.
and didn't you work also for Fantasy Game Shop and also Alliance
Oh,
Miniatures?
how do you know those two? That's funny. I did.
A little bit of,
Very good.
I like to be a little bit prepared, you know.
Well, here I'm working for all these different people, and one day I get a call from Alan Hammock, who is the editor of the game.
Yeah.
He's looking for game designers to work at TSR. And he says, "Well, Merle, I can offer you a job. Come on up, and we'll you can work for us." And I assumed they wanted me to work on espionage. But what was funny is I got off the phone. My brother says, "How much are they going to pay you? Why aren't your bags packed?" So it was a dream job, dream opportunity.
Hmm.
And as a matter of fact, I went to work for them. I was trying to find the exact date here, but I started working for TSR Incorporated. Oh, here we go. June of '82.
Oh,
Two,
so well into the whole. This is
yeah,
when TSR
quite a
was
ways.
really.
In fact, Alan Hammock took me to meet his supervisor, and they had a copy of my resume, and the
Mhm.
guy was flipping my resume over, and he said, "Well, Mr. Rasmussen, most of our game designers are either have a degree in journalism or English, and you don't seem to have either one." And Alan Hammock turns and said, "Mr. Rasmussen is the author of the top secret role playing game."
Oh,
Kazing, I'm paying their wages. The game
so
is paying their
your
wages.
so your work basically,
Yeah,
your this game Top Secret was kind of your, for lack of a better word, you're flashing your laurels out there a little
yeah,
bit, going,
yeah.
"I'm the guy."
I'm the guy because the only thing I'd had published previously was Squirm, a fantasy triangular card game. Try finding that in 1979. That was published by Game Room Productions. Anyway,
Hmm.
that was my only two games. I had a triangular card game and an espionage role playing game. Well,
Hmm.
by at some point there, it was 12% of the adventure gaming market was the game Top Secret. That's how small the market
Wow.
was. So I was 12%. Now
I
I
mean,
like,
today, excuse me,
yeah,
but
yeah.
today, if your game was 12% of the market of anything, I mean, that's a heavy,
So, well,
significant.
it did get special awards from various places, like I want to say like Origin or some place in the United Kingdom gave it a special award. Same year as I believe Traveler got a
Traveler.
science fiction award.
Yeah.
It was Top Secret got an award as a new game. And the game in the first 7 years sold 214,000 copies. Now, 214,000 compared to 10 times that many by basic Dungeons and Dragons, and
Hmm.
probably another 10 times that for advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So, what was happening? Gary Gygax had his own design department, and I was hired to work in the design department and as one of the many designers, and everybody was being told to write Dungeons and Dragons and advanced Dungeons and Dragons
Hmm.
for some strange coincidence. I'm seeing some very interesting questions. The one
Yeah.
is Merle going to be at WizardCon
Yeah.
Kalamazoo? Yes,
Yes, you
that's the
are.
one reason I was called tonight. And
Yeah.
in fact, if you want to get the dates for me, I know it's coming up, but tell me the dates for WizardCon.
Um, okay. WizardCon basically is coming up. It's going to be April 25th, 26th, and 27th in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That's what
Um,
I've got in my date book. Thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Putty Tat. I
Oh,
have I have an orange tabby also.
this is my. Uh, uh, this is funny because all the supervillains have a cat that they stroke during the interview,
Ah.
and he just happened to jump up here. That's the problem with live television or live
Oh,
stories.
you're fine.
You get. I'll show him to you. He's uh, he's a big boy. He's Scott, and
Scott.
Scott was a rescue animal, but he eats well, and he's my. When I want to be a supervillain, this is what I do. And
What
Scott
is it
loves.
about orange cats? I have an orange cat named Loki, and he's a big boy. And if his food bowl, if you can see the bottom of his food bowl, he gets worked up.
Yeah, yep.
So, but yeah, Merle, for everybody, Merle is going to be at WizardCon this April. He's a special guest there. Um, we're going to be sending out real quick badges out to all of our special guests this week, so Merle will be able to schedule his games and such. And we're going to be doing some specially planned events and stuff wrapped around that also.
And
But
if having a live cat isn't enough, I also have. I'm known for my costume changes, so you'll notice the icon badge, Merl
yep,
Rasmussen, the administrator. Well, there's only one of these badges in the world, but beneath, I do have my tuxedo. Yes,
a
and this is
fitting.
also this is
That's
what
right.
I'm known for. Is I wear a tuxedo to your convention, and by Saturday it's a real tuxedo with a
Nice.
black bow tie. This is a t-shirt. People
Merle,
people
excellent.
expect to see me with the fedora and the
That's
black
right.
t-shirt. And it's
And just to let people know that's coming to WizardCon, we're right now kind of planning out once we send all the badges out to the special guests. I'm going to be reaching out to the special guests and doing things like, do people want to do autograph signings as an example, or photo ops and that type of thing? Go ahead,
yes.
Merle.
Yes,
Yes
I
and
do.
yes.
I'm saying
Yes.
yes to both.
Okay, good. And that'll be a chance for people to be able to meet you, Merle, say hi, get a picture with you, get an autograph. Bring your top secret products.
Oh, I do have them. In fact, the publisher is asking me what I've run out of, so I can bring it to your convention. And that's
Awesome.
the funny part is I seem to be doing a lot of that promoting, which is okay. Uh, I
Sure,
don't
yeah.
I don't have
Matter of
the
fact,
uh,
you know what?
yeah. You
I
may
was
have
getting ready to
seen.
say, show the product. I'm happy to
Uh,
share the work and everything on
I
here.
don't have the box with me right now, but there was a hardcover book, Top Secret New World Order, that
Hmm.
included the rules and a module in this wonderful black book with gold
Nice.
press. These are now a collector's item. That's how.
Yeah, I'm gonna be hunting one of those down if they're available at the convention because I need one for my collection.
Well,
So
good luck.
they're
They're
hard to find.
The other thing
Yeah.
that's very rare to find is a coin with my picture on it, and
Hmm.
there were some produced. They did a module that had to do with training,
Hmm.
and if you completed the training, the administrator was to give you this coin with my image on it, and I laughed
Nice.
because it was very
Hmm.
limited production. Um, this is the funny. For 45 years now, my identity has been a secret. So if I go to a convention without the hat and wearing a regular T-shirt, nobody recognizes me. Nobody's who's that guy. And the joke is James Bond, tall, dark, handsome.
Yeah.
I'm short, light, and ugly, so I know how to rock that image. And people don't know who I am until I put the shirt on, until I put the hat on.
Merle, the only women out there that can appreciate the true sexiness of those guys are our wives. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yes, and I've been
So,
married 42 years,
oh,
so
ooh,
Jackie knew
just
me
right.
before I was the administrator. That's the
Yes.
funny part. Um,
Now, real quick question for you about. I mean, everybody, let's face it, TSR in the tabletop gaming world is it is legendary, and names like Gygax and Rasmussen and Cask and such are. I mean, it's legendary. Um, You knew Gary Gygax, correct?
Briefly, he was the president of the company. So
Mm-hmm.
he was elevated several steps above me, a lowly game designer. I did, however, one time make a request to see him
Mm-hmm.
without the fanboys and without my coworkers. And we had a
Mm-hmm.
very nice short conversation as designer to designer. And he had been to New York, and he informed me that there are restaurants you go to eat at, and there are restaurants you go to be seen at,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting to a young man to hear these stories about what he was doing. I believe he was trying to get a cartoon published at the time.
Mm.
But at the time, he'd been to New York and been eating in restaurants and being seen in restaurants.
What? Okay, I've talked to a couple of different people who worked with him or worked for him.
Mhm.
Okay, and I ask all of them, all of you, the same question because it interests me. Is you know what is your honest take on him as a boss, as a man, as a designer?
Hmm.
Not, even though it was brief, what kind of impression did you get from Gary Gygax on him as a person or in general?
Well, although he had the beard and mustache, at one point he was wearing black leather pants and gold chain around his neck
Hmm.
in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is very rural. He also had
Conservative.
a driver who was his chauffeur, a chauffeur that
Hmm.
was his bodyguard.
Hmm.
Now, I don't believe Mr. Gygax ever drove himself.
Okay.
He took the train to work in Chicago before Dungeons and Dragons. He he um, what I told John Peterson once is Mr. Gygax was not Santa Claus. In
Hmm.
other words, he was not a saint,
Yeah.
and he put his work, his own designs, were getting published ahead of our designs,
Hmm.
which you're an employee. Okay, I can accept that.
Yeah.
I get that. During the time, I would get check marks: yes, proceed; no, don't proceed. And he'd
Hmm.
sign his initials, and that was about as close as I got to conversations with him.
Gotcha.
The one short distance was I got a page back from uh, Mike Carr, and in the margin was written, "Accept this manuscript as soon as it is typed, Gary." Okay, so that piece of paper is now a historical document. The point is, I had handwritten my game, photocopied it, sent it, and
Hmm.
Gygax liked it so well, he said, "We want to look at this, accept it as soon as it is typed." So then I went and I hired typists to type my manuscript, photocopied that, sent that in, and they accepted the game, sent me a royalty contract. And
Nice.
someone once asked if I had a good, um, oh, what is it you call it in Hollywood? If I had someone looking out for me, getting their 10% cut, and I said, "Oh yeah,
Oh, like a manager.
yeah."
Yeah.
Uh, I was a sophomore at Iowa State at the time, so I was doing my own
So.
experiences. But you asked a question about the man.
Mhm.
Uh, I would say that he was local farm boy done good. Now that's me. I'm a farm boy done good.
Mhm.
Um, I'd
Yep.
say that his vocabulary was extreme, coming out of a thesaurus somewhere.
Mhm.
As a writer, I looked at his works and I go, I don't use that language. In fact, for Top Secret, I couldn't use magic, so I use technology. So a lot of my writing is very dry and technical. His was
Mhm.
very flowery, very purple prose, as you would say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, actually, I was actually told. Tim Cass told me a story once about Gary Gygax that Gary would actually sometimes put very, very complicated words in his work in an effort to make people go, "Huh?" To make them look it up and actually do some research and find out what that word meant.
um,
Um,
the closest thing I had to it was people would read my rules and say, solid rubber tires, you can't shoot them out. And they were amazed with this technology. And I said, yeah,
Uh,
the Secret Service has that.
yeah.
They, so by my research, I wasn't using magic items. I was using items you see in the real world,
Gotcha.
but fictionally, I could take it a step beyond reality.
Yep.
Hence, you'd have a large weapon reduced to a miniature weapon. You'd
Hmm.
have special devices that, like gloves, you could use to walk up the wall.
Hmm.
Um, so, as a different
Yep.
flavor, also, I based the game on percentile dice. So,
Hmm.
that gave it a different flavor than Dungeons
Yeah.
and Dragons. Um,
Yeah.
welcome to Boot Hill. I believe it was
Yeah.
percentile also.
Now, what I guess I'm trying to think how I want to word this question
That's fine.
is, you know, you have right now the third or the fourth iteration of Top Secret.
Yes.
Are there any plans for Top Secret to put out another version or something additional to the project Top Secret?
Um, I will tell you a couple things. I've spoken with the publisher, and I wanted to do comedy rules for the game because it's
Mhm.
such a serious espionage role playing game.
Yeah,
People roll up a character, they're going to play him like James Bond, and they act like Maxwell Smart,
yeah.
which is the inspiration. I did not know that Jolly Blackburn had done a spoof of Top Secret called Hacknoia in his comic strip. And
Oh, did he?
so,
I did not know that.
oh yes, and I met him, and he gave me every copy of Hacknoia comic strip
Hmm.
in his magazine, and we shook on it at a convention at Gen Con. It was that he would illustrate it if I would write the rules.
Hmm.
Well, uh, T- the people who published TSR and Kinzer and Company, Jerry, although we shook on it, the
Hmm.
contract was a licensing contract that would took a month to hammer out.
Yeah.
It's been 3 to 4 years since that hammering. The one thing that's happened is Hacknoia is on its third, possibly its fourth editor for reasons beyond me. That
Wow.
after the first editor, I was told stop writing. We have enough material. Well, I continued to play test
Yeah.
Hacknoia, and the subtitle was "The Game of Conspiracies, the Supernatural, and Espionage." So that's Jolly Blackburn being funny,
Hmm.
and so we could go and stretch the reality of Top Secret into a comedic rules. Now
Yeah.
that's been written. It has not been finished edited yet, and I'm
Hmm.
glad you asked about it. Um, Now there has been talk for at least a couple of years that Top Secret has errata, it has rule corrections that you
Hmm.
can get online, and that we
Yeah.
wish to put out a new version of Top Secret with the errata included. And there's even discussion of taking out some of the um, vehicle combat rules and putting
Yeah.
back in what was taken out. And you
Hmm.
got to understand, uh, Alan Hammock said it best. He was the editor. He said, "Yeah, I'd ask Merle for a topic. He'd give me 300 words, and I'd cut it back to 100." So that
Hmm.
this is the real game: is you would be asked to write something, and then the editors take a whack at it.
Yep.
And in my case, Alan Hammock made my game much more playable, and he is he and I are good friends.
Hmm.
I credit him with the success of Top Secret. Mike Carr saw it, got it approved, went to Alan Hammock to be edited, and then Alan Hammock hired me to work at TSR. He was
Sorry.
my
Yeah.
supervisor, so that relationship has been built up over more than 45 years.
Hmm.
Um, I did want to tell you during my time at TSR, I did produce B Solo, Ghost of Lion Castle. It's a
Oh.
official basic solo adventure. I did produce Lathan's Gold, which is an X solo module.
Nice.
I don't have Quagmire in front of me, but I did
I
X6 Quagmire.
I've got a copy of Quagmire.
And here is X9, the Savage Coast, which is more of a sandbox
Yep.
setting. Now, here's the funny. I didn't know what I was doing. They told me, here's the
Oh,
title,
what?
here's the level of players. It's going to be solo, and this you have to do in say 8 weeks, 32 pages. Go. And so I
That
get
that's
done with it.
that's what they did to you. Here you go.
Yes, yes, not espionage, but fantasy.
Totally outside the box of
Yes,
what you're used to doing.
yes. So, not knowing, I had to teach myself. Plus, it had to be solo. They'd already sold the titles to the to the distributors, to the book companies. I want to call it. I can't remember the name of the book company, but they'd already sold the titles before they were written. So now, guys like me had to write the adventures. That was why I got to do the first B solo adventure, the first X solo adventure, X6 and X9, long before they produced no, Ace of Clubs, which was my only top secret product at the time. Ace of Clubs, I think, came out in 1984, maybe 85 or 6.
Okay, I gotta ask.
Okay.
This now begs me to dig into something attached to this. So you have this RPG you put out top secret that is selling, for all intents and purposes, relatively well.
Yes.
And so instead of giving you the creator of Top Secret and saying, Merle, we need more modules for Top Secret, they throw this. I
Mm.
mean, it's literally just throwing you out in the middle of the desert and saying, go find some water instead of. So this kind of brings into another point. You know, and I'm not trying to badmouth Gary Gygax or TSR or
Mhm.
anything like that, but
Mhm.
this begs a question for me, and that is, that seems relatively unorganized and out of sync. Do you think that that type of for lack of a better word that I'm going to use is that do you think that that type of planning and scheduling of product and product releases was part of their problem?
I think there were too many cooks in the kitchen. What I mean by that is they were trying to create a company. They didn't have it figured out yet.
Mm-hmm.
For your information, okay, the years go by. I worked for TSR for 22 months. One
Yeah.
day I get called in the office. Well, Merle, we missed a $40 million sales prediction by $18 million. It's none of your fault, but we're cutting you and 49 other people today. I was the
But
third cut in. So the bankers wanted their money. So to do that, you either have to pay us back
yep.
or show us get rid of 50 people. 6 months later, 50 more employees. 6 months later, I made it to the third cut. And so they were chopped at least 150 people from the payroll to satisfy the bankers. So I don't think they quite knew how to manage their money. I heard other stories like they gave $10,000 gemstones to the top distributors in the country,
I heard a story about that myself.
or they would order I don't want to call them toys, articulated figures,
Uh-huh.
and they'd order them from the Far East, and they would arrive by ship, by container, and they didn't own any warehouse space. So we had to rent warehouse space for these articulated figures for Dungeons and Dragons. That's pretty expensive to be
Yeah.
renting cargo. Yeah, hardware space.
Yeah.
I missed the word, but the point is, you need a little more planning along the way. And I was in,
Their logistics actually sucked. I mean, it
well,
just logistics just were not. It sounds to me that just were.
we were being very creative, lots of creativity going all around. And you
Hmm.
had designers. We could dress any way we wanted to. The editors come in suit and tie. The women were well dressed, editors. The artists pretty much dressed and came and go as they went, as they chose. Um, they didn't have so much desks as workspaces,
Hmm.
all on the same floor. Ideas are flowing left, right, left, right. Oh, guys, you did that in 8 weeks. Now, can you do the next one in 7 weeks? Oh, you did that in seven
Yeah.
weeks. Now, can you do that in 6 weeks? So I was young. I had a job. They paid. I'll tell you a funny. Um, I was hourly, and we kept track of
Oh.
our hours. We had a time clock. It seems that they failed to pay us overtime, and the state of Wisconsin decided, the fine will be you have to pay all of these people all their back wages for all their
Wow.
overtime, and I became a salaried employee. So,
Imagine that. Amazing, isn't it? Congratulations.
so just telling you these little anecdotes may help cement. We were
Yeah.
very creative people,
Mhm.
but the people in charge were not business people. They were creative types. They didn't quite have a handle on the on the genie of the bottle they'd opened up,
Yeah.
um, and it was sad to see. I asked Alan Hammock once about why I was assigned to do fantasy, and he said we all were, Merle. We all were assigned to do fantasy, whether they
That was
wanted to be
bread
doing
and
Boot
butter.
Hill or Gangbusters or
Yeah.
Gamma World. Another anecdote, funny one. Jim Ward said, Merle, every time we got quarterly sales reports,
Hmm.
every time that a James Bond movie come out, my sales would go up. Top Secret
Hmm.
sales went up. But he said, they don't produce post apocryphal movies. Otherwise, my game would sell better. Now he had Metamorphosis Alpha and he had
Yep.
Gamma World,
Yep.
but he and I were friendly rivals in two
Hmm.
different genres. And
Hmm.
his games weren't being promoted. My games weren't being promoted. At 7 years of Top Secret, I was offered a year's worth of royalties if I give the rights back, so they didn't have to pay me royalties, and I took it. I took the I took what they were
Yep.
offering me, and bye bye, I'm gone.
Hmm.
And Get his name right, uh, Doug Doug, my I apologize to him. He took over and rewrote Top Secret Special Investigations, Top Secret SI. And for 30 years, he did not know that I'd given up my rights. He thought he'd stepped on my toes. And I said,
Hmm.
no, Doug Niles, Doug Niles. I said,
Hmm.
no, I sold my rights. They rewrote it. You are the guy, you are the writer. And so Doug Niles did Top Secret SI, which had many, many modules. And things, management had changed by that time. And then it went off the market. And a few years later, I was asked, Merle, would you do Top Secret New World Order? And it's no longer the world of East versus West or the United States versus Russia. It's the war against terror. That's the
Yeah.
difference in the genre now.
Yep. Now,
Just
do you do you think that that's a good thing, or do you prefer that, or would you prefer to go back to the classic Cold War,
mm,
you know,
Um,
Russian?
I'm enjoying the modern technology a lot more. When I
Hmm.
wrote the game, there was no internet. There was
Yeah.
no how should we put it? We didn't have the computers that we do today.
Yeah.
We didn't have the technology. We had to write rules for uh, if you get shot in real life, you die. Okay,
Yeah.
that doesn't work real well in a role playing game. So we
Yeah.
were finding first aid rules and devices where if you get shot with a shotgun, you can be plastered with this medical stuff that keeps the blood from spurting out, and you survive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
An
and
anticoagulant.
that's a modern thing. It's a
Yeah.
modern coagulant, just like super glue during
Yep.
Vietnam. They
Yep.
discovered it works.
It works great. Yeah.
Also, drones. Drones came in. Well, it didn't take long to figure out you could use drones for more than surveillance.
Yeah.
You can use drones to attack people,
Hmm.
and that then you need anti-drones. Well, what do you do against drones that are surveilling you or attacking
Yeah.
you? So now you see technology led to technology that led to technology. Um, the other funny, and I'm going to diverge for those of you that are
No, go ahead.
um, uh, about 5 years ago, I came up with this revelation. Top Secret was the first game where you played a spy. He was an assassin or an investigator, a
Hmm.
confiscator, later a technician. You were playing a secret agent, playing the part of a character. So if you can imagine, you're now meta, you're 2 layers deep in
Yep.
role playing. You're playing a secret agent, playing a part. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
ever thought of that.
you're a person
Yep, you're the
playing a
butcher at the
player
butcher shop.
character
Yes.
that's playing a player character
Yep. And
for the game being a player. Wow.
it gets worse if you're a double agent, because now you're playing a secret agent who's working for the other side. I did have that come up in a game once, that I had a Russian agent working for the good guys, but the bad guys were Russians. So he had a conscious a conflict of conscience as a player, as a
Yeah.
character. Should I be working for Icon, or should I be working for the Russians? And so that interplay, there's another level of
Now,
complexity.
you mentioned Icon.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Tell us about Icon. What was the premise for? I mean, what was the premise for
Well, okay.
Talk about
Icon,
Icon.
it means the International Covert Operations Network. And what happens is,
That's just
now,
cool.
the United Nations is very good at policing the world. They send out soldiers from different countries to build a demilitarized zone and keep the warring factions apart. The emphasis of ICON was to prevent the war in the first place by using espionage, using secret agents from
Yeah.
all the world nations. They would form this ultra United Nations group, sort of like the man from Uncle,
Hmm.
but basically you would have agents that work for ICON that prevent wars by using espionage. Now that's
So
the premise of it.
yeah, so Icon basically is an organization whose sole purpose is to prevent war
Yes,
via.
it's an ultra United Nations. It's a secret United Nations. Even their
Mhm,
budgets are secret through the United Nations.
mhm.
The theory is they're being sent out as accountants to to do accounting work around the world, and while they're doing the accounting work for the United Nations, they're also spying on the countries that are in conflict.
Nice.
Now, what happens is they also spy on the bad guys, the
Mhm,
non well, the terrorists and criminals and all the bad guys. They're being spied on by Icon, the good guys. I
mhm.
hope that helps explain it a little bit.
No, actually it does. I mean, because you know, a lot of times I think what people do is they see things in games
Hmm.
and it just kind of goes over their head. You know, oh, okay, Icon. Get deeper into it. Now, for every, for, as they say, for dark there's light, light there's dark. Now you have Icon. Is there a in the game itself, or in the premise of the game, is there an ultimate bad guy, or is it just more ethereal?
I believe so far it's all been bad guys on their own. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they don't band together like James Bond's
Like
bad guys.
Spectre.
Yeah, Spectre being a good example.
Yeah.
These are independent operators. They're outside a nation's control.
Okay.
Generally, oh, I had a situation where they were South Sudan, break away from Sudan. Well, the Russians wanted to do the same thing in other African countries. Um, so you can still have a nation state, but you have more non nation states. being the bad guys.
Gotcha.
Terrorists being a prime example. Now you can still have the rogue uh, bad guy coming up with a super bug or a super virus for a computer, or you can have bad things going on, and the good guys are a monolith trying to prevent that bad guy. They'll discover him out in his lair in the Amazon rainforest, or there are pot poachers getting money for their underground organization by selling the uh, archaeological finds in an Incan city on the Peruvian border. Now, as concentrated as that gets, Alan Hammock said, Merle, all of your adventures happen in the tropics. Go
Mhm.
someplace cold. And
Yep.
so I went to London, where every street corner has closed circuit television, where the police are not armed, they have whistles and clubs.
Hmm.
A whole different environment, and a very everybody drives on the wrong side of the road. Lends itself very well to a different style of play.
Yeah.
And I also put adventures in Australia, which is hot weather. For your convention, and I think for the convention to be ahead of it, my wife said, do something in cold weather. So I'm going to Alaska with the next one. And
Nice.
it's Operation Fresnel. The lighthouses on the Alaskan coast are blinking out messages to the ocean. And your job is to find out why these are being taken over and messages are being shipped out to overseas in the northern Pacific.
I'm sorry. That right there demonstrates the true art, though. No, it does. There is an art form in a role playing game with the creativity, and I've been playing RPG since 1977, and I thought I was creative. That is really innovative. Lighthouses, and right now my mind's kind of going bonkers inside of it because I'm getting ideas now I want to write down, but I can't because I'm interviewing you. But go ahead. Sorry, that
Well,
just by all
when it
means, guys, listen to this man.
when it comes to at the game convention, you'll enjoy this. I play with Lego. Now I'm a Danish American. Lego
Mhm.
was invented in Denmark.
Yeah,
Okay, played with it all my life. I started bringing Lego blocks with pre-built pyramids and things to the game table, and it lent itself perfectly. If your agent is one stud tall, then it's 10 feet to the next stud, and each layer of bricks is another 10 feet.
oh,
So,
that's just so unique.
so for the this Alaskan thing, I've already built a lighthouse, which is 200 feet tall, with a crystal at the top, the Fresnel lens, and I've built the little buildings at the bottom. But he's on an island surrounded by ice, and I just found out in the last month that Lego makes base plates that are white. I've been
Mhm.
playing with gray for city. I've been playing with green for the jungle, with brown for the Sahara Desert, with blue for water. I now have white base plates. So they're what, 200 by 200 feet, something like that.
Wow.
And your secret agents are one stud tall. And now you get the scale. You can use this for line of sight. You can use this. Oh, I built the lighthouse. Okay. You, as players, build all of the village buildings around the lighthouse. Okay. So, what's your favorite color? Purple? Here's purple Lego. Build something. Oh, your favorite color is green? You get green. Now your agent is Agent Orange, Agent Green, Agent
Yeah.
Purple. I can identify each guy, and each player tells me about their section of the town, or their section of the hideout, or the place in the desert, or whatever it is. They now are hooked in because they took 20 minutes to play with Lego at the convention to build what they wanted to. The the one more I want to tell you about, I'll be playing a castle, and it's a medieval castle. Wow, look, it's built out of white
Mhm.
bricks. It's surrounded by a Renaissance fair because the lower Slavovians wanted to steal the crown jewels from the upper Slavovians and gain control in their part of Europe. Your job is to defend the crown jewels inside the castle. But you come to this as a Renaissance fair, each square built by the players, and your agent has to dress in a Renaissance costume and hide their weapons inside the Renaissance costume. Now that's fun. That is
Yeah,
hilarious
and not
stuff.
only that, but just the idea of being the creativity of having the idea of using Legos.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I've, like I said, I've been playing a long time myself, and I admit I've never thought about using Legos to play. I mean, I know there's Lego sets. In fact,
mhm.
there's a Lego set that Kim George, who's a
Oh,
big DMD, you know Kim,
yeah.
right? She
Yes.
just got done last summer into early fall building the new D&D Lego with the dragon and everything, and
Yes.
that's on my hunting list. It's still available. The prices aren't jacked up. I want to eventually get that and build one for. There's actually, to let you know, we're premiering the announcement at the WizardCon, but there's going to be the National Role Playing Game Museum opening up in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Oh, that is
And
cool.
I want to take that along. I'm donating a significant part of my collection to it, but I want to build that. And actually, Tom from Tabletop Tap Room, who is in the chat here, is going to be doing some it's beautiful styrofoam work. He takes
Hmm.
styrofoam, he builds castles and displays with it.
Mhm.
And Tom's going to be doing some of that stuff for the museum. But yeah, Legos.
Yep. Now, I married a very creative woman. We're having this layout in London. Okay, so everybody's building something that existed over the past 2,000 years in London. So it
Hmm.
can be ancient, it could be medieval, it can be modern times. Side by side, it's London. And my wife said, "You need fog." So we got cotton batting, and
Oh, good idea.
each player drops the cotton batting on the map. The three-dimensional map that you've built is now
Nice.
covered in cotton batting, but only in little clouds, which, when you're playing, move around.
Hmm.
And it's hilarious because guys drive in and out of clouds of fog. And if they're in a tower trying to do sniping, they can't see through the fog.
Yep.
And sometimes, if you're building along the River Thames, they have put fog along the riverbank, and just wonderful creative uses of
Yeah.
cotton batting, for crying out loud. Now, people come in to the convention and they take pictures to send to their friends because everything is in color,
Yeah.
three-dimensional mapping. Um, I won't say I invented it, but it's become much more popular over the last 7 years with me
Hmm.
around. So that's been fun. And people, I had an organizer come in with guests to show the guests my table because of the creativity that was going on at the table.
Hmm.
Um, but players can outthink the game master, and they're constantly challenging me with
Yeah.
bigger and better and smarter things. It's amazing.
Now, speaking of, there is a gentleman named Saint Cuthbert in our chat.
Hmm.
Um, he's actually coming to WizardCon. And speaking of displays, he puts on a gorgeous three-dimensional display for his modules that he does.
Mhm.
We're actually publishing a module for him, but he's building this display, and it's three-dimensional. People play in it and such, and just the creativity of all these players. And the funny thing is, they learn you know, who knows where the inspiration came from? Probably it could have been from you. They might have saw something you did one time or something. Um, but
I should
speaking,
tell you something else. I'm interrupting you on purpose.
no, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
also give the players gadgets for their agent to use during play, and they
Hmm.
can take it home as a souvenir. And one of the things
Oh,
I
nice.
found was a lip gloss applicator that looked like a cell phone, and you flip it open, and now it's a uplink, a satellite uplink,
Oh, that's
and I
very
have
cool.
players fight over. I'm going to be the communications expert because I want the lip gloss, and
Nice.
I pull out the little brush, and that's the antenna. And
You're
these
doing your
little,
job right, Merle, when you got
oh,
them fighting at the table wanting to play
yeah,
the player character, you know?
yeah, and that this is hilarious. I do have groups that come. I happen to have a group of women that wants to play my game at GaryCon, and
Hmm.
that's the event they come for is Top
Oh,
Secret. Uh,
nice.
when we started 45 years ago, very, very, very few women. You would
Yep.
have girlfriends of guys come to
Yeah.
the table. But now I've even played my scenarios with a table of just women.
Yep.
And I've discovered that both men and women take 2 hours to buy equipment. So we no longer let them buy equipment, men or women. And then also, men and women's thought processes are different.
Yep. Very
If you
much so.
have a Jeep surrounded by macaque monkeys and they have 1 inch fangs, and one jumps on the lid of your on the roof of your Jeep, men will shoot through the roof to kill the monkey.
Yep.
Women will roll down the window and throw out a granola bar, and that makes the monkey on the roof jump down, and all
Why
the
waste
other
the
monkeys
ammo?
run over to get the granola bar.
Nice.
So different thought processes, same problem. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting to play with gender differences.
Yeah.
Um, and I will tell you another group. I'll just tell you this. I have played with hearing impaired people and
Yep.
visually impaired people.
Hmm.
And the only thing the visually impaired people needed was someone to tell them what dice they had rolled, what the roll of the
Yeah.
dice was, because I have to explain things visually as a game master. You know, you're
Hmm.
outside the pyramid. There is a camel that's looking at you, and the moon is rising at your right hand side.
Yep.
So visually, I have to explain it for everybody, and a visually impaired person can make decisions based on my explanations. It's just
Now,
interesting to know. Mhm.
now, um, got a question for you regarding your opinion on something.
Okay.
Um, we're going to go with TSR and non-TSR.
All right.
What, in your opinion, is the best game product that TSR put out that was not Merle
Hmm.
touched?
Hmm.
And what was the worst product, do you think?
Oh, you're you're making it hard on me. Uh I would say what
And
was
you're free to say why.
they
You can get
did
into an explanation.
they after I was gone, I never got to work on it. They
Mhm.
did a game that was based on soap operas, like All My Children
Yeah, I've
role
heard
playing
about that.
game.
It's the
That
ET Atari game of RPGs.
it's not. I don't know what the sales were, but I could not believe they were going that direction at all.
Hmm.
I understood if they went with that we play tested. I got to play test the um, Indiana Jones role playing game. Now
Hmm.
that's pretty clever. I got to hand off to Jeff Grubb, who did the Marvel Superheroes game.
Hmm.
That was a darn good game.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Marvel superhero role playing game. Let's see. Now you have your own cat. You're now a super villain
Uh,
too.
I feel like a
Uh,
villain now. I'm even bald.
yes, I will tell you, Mister. Get their name right. Um, he's from Utah. Uh, he he um, he and I were at TSR at the same time, um, and he wrote the Dragonlance series, um, and it was
Hickman,
yes, Tracy Hickman, and I apologize, can't remember the co-author's name.
Margaret Weiss.
Margaret Weiss.
Yeah.
Their products not only made TSR money, but they had huge spin-off value,
Yeah.
huge
Massive.
amounts of other product. Um, that group, um, Tracy talked to me about writing like Shakespeare did for the guys in the front row and the guys in the back row of the theater. You need to write for everybody, and I was like,
Mhm.
holy cow, he's talking about Shakespeare. You know,
Yeah.
this is pretty high praise from me.
Hmm.
Um, he'd hand me we were signing games at the same place one time, and he handed me one of his first published books. Here you go, Merle. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Tracy, I think, is a class act, and Margaret Weiss and I have posed in pictures together. Um, I don't know their situation these days, but Dragonlance was a huge, huge success. And he did, I was going to say Richthofen, but there's a bad vampire. He did the vampire stuff. And the player character,
Don't know the name of that.
what was it? I want to say Richthofen, but there was a vampire, I
Oh,
think.
yeah, Baron von. Oh, maybe I think
Yeah,
Tom Verlt from Tabletop Tapper might know this. I think it is Baron von Richthofen or something.
it's
Or
like that, but I don't follow it. But I believe that product spurred on to be doing other things. He was very creative, did a lot of good stuff.
yeah, that character did go on to his
Yeah.
own. He did a couple. There was a couple modules I believe made
Yes.
after the character and
Yes.
everything. Yeah,
Your
definitely.
your fans will kill me for not knowing the name of this character, but that's the level of writing that was
Yeah,
being done. Um,
good quality stuff.
yeah, you asked the question, but yes, I'd say the worst had to be a, well, yeah, a soap opera role playing game. All My Children, I
To
believe.
me, and I know people go, well, just because you don't like it, Don, doesn't mean that nobody likes it. But there are just subjects that just don't fit with the a game type. To me,
Hmm.
you know, and a soap opera just to me isn't it.
I think somebody said, "Let's go after the female market." What do they
Possibly
do
back then, yeah,
back
absolutely.
then? And I think it was a bad idea. Um, Now I'll tell you, games like Gangbusters, perfectly
Yeah,
good game.
yeah.
That was a fine game. Um,
We're actually republishing that with Mark Hunt.
oh, oh, okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Um, uh, but Boot Hill, wonderful for strategy, and I should say tactical. You
Hmm.
know, the guy's on the roof, and you shoot him, and he rolls off, and it's
Yep,
all tactical. Um, um Jolly Blackburn did quite a bit with his aces and eights,
yep.
but we were hacking out the first. What should the next role playing direction be? Alan Hammock said they were getting like 2 submissions a day on fantasy role playing games, and suddenly Merle comes in with something that's 20th century espionage,
Yeah,
and they went, "What's that?" And it
yeah.
was written well enough that they decided to proceed with it. Well, when they asked me to rewrite it, it had to be the 21st century role playing game. Interesting. So my
Hmm.
work has to be timely, and
Yeah,
that's sometimes a problem when the real shuttle blows up and they hold my work for a year afterwards. That
yeah.
happened. Oh, they
So
did.
so the Challenger disaster actually affected release of your work.
Yes, it did. They held it. They said we're paying you the money, but we're holding it for 1 year. And I think it was the module that was inside. Um, Let me think out loud. I did a spy's advice. That's not what it was called, but it was
Hmm.
supplemental rules for top secret, and the module inside had to do with the module with the space shuttle, and I had yeah,
Yeah.
carbonophage microbes that would eat the carbon reinforcing on all the leading wing, unless the bad guys got their money before launch. You know, that kind of thing.
Isn't
Anyway,
that weird though? That kind of similarity, you know,
I'll give
of
you
what
one
actually.
worse. Rapid Strike by Mike Carr, I think
Hmm.
Corey Kobernick. Uh, they did a ship plan, and the terrorists were aboard the ship. And they went to the local travel agency and got maps of the Achille Lauro. They used the maps of the Achille Lauro for their fictitious ship.
Really?
Yes. So then years flash by. Terrorists take over the Achille Lauro. One poor man lost his life. He was in a wheelchair. They threw him overboard.
Yeah.
That's scary. That is.
It's kind of like the Simpson stuff that goes on, the Simpson TV show,
Hmm.
and they show all these things happening, and they're very, very. Real quick, Say Cuthbert says question.
I see it.
Um, Says question from Merle. Do you still run original top secret events, or do you prefer the newer version?
The quick answer is I do not run the original top secret events. My job these days is to promote the newer. And I've been jumping between Hacknoia, which is comedy rules, and Top Secret New World Order, which is 21st century gadgetry. And so the answer to you is I don't run the original event. I run the newer versions for promotion purposes.
Gotcha.
Also, there was some other freaky thing happened to us, but it's the 21st century. And so we're running into these timeline. The reality meets fiction. And I've had people ask me, I'll give you one more. This is not fiction. A man met me at a convention, and I hear from all kinds of armed services personnel. He said, I want to thank you for your game, Top Secret. I was suffering PTSD with other veterans of the Gulf War, and we recreated our battle situations using your game rules, and then we heard from the other people in our group that they would have done the same thing I did. In other words, it was therapeutic. It was being used therapeutically, and people were saying, yep, I would have done that too.
That is really interesting.
Well, it got me because I was going, thank you for your service, but they were actually using my rules in a therapeutic way.
Wow.
I also heard from a police people up in Spokane or somewhere. They were teaching officers to deal with hostage situations using my rules. They were training new officers about hostage negotiating using top secret rules. And that was the first one I'd heard of affecting the real world. So fascinating. I do see a funny being asked, does Hacknoia have the cone of silence?
Yeah, I love that song.
I love it, but at this moment, it doesn't. Now it's a minute later. I really like this idea a lot, so we should put that in. We might call it something other than a cone of silence. But I get your drift, and you got the hooks in me already.
See,
yes,
Tom, you're throwing some ideas that are sticking here. All right. Now, Merle, 2025 is upon us. We know you're coming to WizardCon. You are going to GaryCon, correct?
Yes.
What other conventions are you going to? Events? Anything major happening this year in your schedule of?
Funny you should ask. Yes, March 20 through 23rd, I will be at GaryCon. Then in April, I'm going to get the date right. The 25th, 26th, 27th of April, WizardCon. Then I get to go in June for the June 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'll be at the North Texas Role Playing Game Con.
North Texas.
It's in Irving, Texas.
Me and my wife are going to try to make it there.
They have
one of the have to go to.
Yeah, I think about 500 people are who come. And it's a very high proportion between celebrities and gamers.
Yeah.
Then I take off a few months because it isn't till September or October. I will be at Gamehole Con, October 16, 17, 18, and 19. So mark that on your calendars. Merle will be it. It's at Madison, Wisconsin. Gamehole Con, the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. I have been invited to other conventions this summer, and I have not yet said yes, so I'm not going to announce whether I'm going or not. I don't know.
Now, Merle, what part of the country do you live in? I
Oh, I, I'm in the center of culture, agriculture. I, I live in central Iowa. So it's
gotcha.
very
Okay.
interesting. Um, Lake Geneva and Madison are a day's drive away from me
Yeah,
from
you're kind
central
of like,
Iowa.
yeah.
But Irving, Texas is a 2 day drive.
Hmm.
And let me see, where else do I go? Um, I mentioned the other one. I've forgotten already. Sorry. Um, I have been one time. I was asked to be the stretch goal for Tsunami Con in Wichita, and they said, "How much do you need to come?" My food, my mileage,
Hmm.
rent, be in a hotel, and I gave them a price. They said, "So if we sell that many tickets, will you come to Tsunami Con in Wichita?" Well, yes, I will. And so they sold the tickets. They called me up. I showed up at their convention. They had a great time. So
Good.
it's lovely being a stretch goal for a convention.
You know what? Not many people can say I was a stretch goal. So,
You're
um,
asking, somebody's asking, any light you can shed on the history of star frontiers? Wow, that's a good one. Um, the only,
Mr. Tom from Tabletop Tap Room is a huge Star Frontiers nerd of the highest caliber. This guy is. He is very, very, and I figure it's going to come up knowing Tom. So,
well, I was one day at work, I was pulled aside and said, Merle, um, we're working on this Star Frontiers. We were heard that it was written by a sophomore in college, and they want us professional game designers to fix it up, make it work. And nobody's putting their name on it. I didn't have the heart to tell my colleague that I was a sophomore in college when I wrote Top Secret. So
yeah,
that's one of those, ooh, gee, I don't know about that game. And
yeah.
they had I think if you look for the credits, you won't find a title. You won't find anybody's name on Star Frontiers.
Hmm.
Prove me wrong. Uh,
Tom's in here. He'll know. Tom, is there anybody, while we're talking about other stuff, is there
credit.
anybody listed as credits as the creator or the inventor of Star Frontiers? Because to be honest with you, I never even thought about it. I don't know. You know?
It might say
Um,
staff, the
yeah, something
TSR
oblique.
staff. You know, uh,
Um,
that's funny. We did it. It seemed to me to be a more childish game
mhm.
than it could have been. Uh,
Yeah.
it seemed more childish. That's not saying wrong. That's just saying a different market.
Hmm.
I don't know if I think Lawrence Schick was gone by that time. Um, Oh, there. Thank you. Thank you. Zeb Cook and Schick were credited. I appreciate knowing that. Um,
Gotcha.
yes. So Merle doesn't know all. I'm just a guy wearing a
You know,
silly hat. Yes.
but the thing is, you know, your game had influence, though. It really impacted people.
Hmm.
Um, I know a lot of people who, I mean, and everybody has their niche. I mean, Tom is a huge Star Frontiers lover. Um, obviously, Jason Elliott is a huge Top
Mhm.
Secret lover.
Mhm.
You know, everybody has been impacted by these games and by people like you. Um, you know, so greatly. Real quick, Tabletop Taproom says real quick, but it was taken from them and rewrote by committee for the 12-year-old market, and Zeb Cook was salty about it being taken from him. You want to comment on that at all, Merle?
I have no comment because I believe I was downsized a little bit around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was going to comment on what you were saying, Don. Um, I have heard from service personnel and police and forensic scientists and um, people played top secret while they were in submarines underneath the ice cap. They played
Mm-hmm.
top secret in bombers circling the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They played top secret at camps where the officers wanted to play top secret with them, but they couldn't pull rank during the game. They had to
Mhm.
all be equal, players, and then they would.
Darn.
Yeah, I know. The enlisted men and the officers would play my game, but they were equal on the game board
Sorry,
during the
Colonel,
game.
I may be an NCO, but you know
Yep.
what? We're all equal at this
Uh,
table.
Fascinating to learn what people have used the game for. I heard they also pulled a prank at a military school with Spreckenhaltestelle, and it says on it, uh, do not accept from courier if seal is broken. Agency courier is required by law to manage proof security clearance. They hid this in a guy's books at a military school,
Oh,
and then
wow.
they said someone has
Yep.
broken in, stolen this, and we're going to go through your books and see who it is.
That's not funny, though, in certain
No, that's not
situations.
funny, but a bright yellow administrator, top secret. I heard that happened at a military school. So you do get all kinds of stories. One of the best ones, I was working at TSR and I got a letter from a parent, and they were having a bar mitzvah, a top secret themed bar mitzvah party. Now, I'm not Jewish, but
Really?
I got a top secret poster, and I wrote, Happy Bar Mitzvah from the administrator, Merl
Yeah.
Rasmussen, and dated it, rolled it up, sent it to the kid for his top secret themed bar mitzvah
Nice.
party. Now, that was out of my wheelhouse. I wasn't used to this fame thing. We'd get a hate letter from Great Britain, and we didn't know a bloody thing about ammunition or a bloody thing about um, uh, firearms because we rewrote the rules so you wouldn't be so deadly. Anyway,
Yeah.
and we as Americans don't use the word bloody the way the British mean
Yeah.
it. So we reprinted their letter in Dragon magazine. We thought it
Mhm.
was hilarious. Um, then I started realizing I had people in English speaking countries around the world playing top secret,
Yeah.
not just service personnel. We're talking natives of different countries were playing top secret. And that got to my attention. Usually, it
Mhm.
first started out being English-speaking countries, Great Britain, Canada. You get the idea. And then other countries started writing in that they were playing top secret. So somebody's distribution was great. They were getting it out across the world. I heard when they shipped it to Germany, they held up releasing it to the country because the outside of the cartons were stamped top secret. So
Mhm.
the Germans didn't want to get it through their customs system fast enough.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so you hear these stories quite often that top secret had an impact, usually in a positive way, on people's lives. And oh, I used to answer a lot of fan letters.
Mhm.
When I was downsized, I stopped doing fan letters
Yeah.
uh, for some strange reason. But now I have historians talking to me. Um, John Peterson being the best, and he's
Mhm.
even bought photos from my wife of me at game events and things. But the funny part is, he he said, "Mr. Rasmussen, do you happen to have any literature, anything you wrote from the 1980s?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I do. I had 9,000 sheets of paper because everything was typed, everything was handwritten,
Wow.
and I'd saved it all." Well, then I've become a footnote in the tabletop role playing game industry. Um, and I see a note that about product being held up in
Oh
customs.
yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Um,
And the
but
thing is that that's the funny part about it is that it's really strange how customs does work. Little things can hold you up for months, and big things can go right through you. Just it's literally thrown. Oh,
Excuse me, hotline. I'm still in the interview. Can I call you back? Thank you. Goodbye.
Merle, no
I'm sorry.
worries, no big deal. We've been on here over an hour and almost 20 minutes. I think we can pretty much tie this up. You know, thank you for coming on. Honestly, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. You know, everybody in chat, I'm sure, is really grateful too. We've had a very active chat. A lot of people have been online watching this. So here in the media, you're going to be. Are you going to be at TotalCon this year?
I was invited years ago, but it's too far. It's too cold. It's too,
It's a little chilly out.
I'm
Yep.
too old. I did attend back when the game Top Secret was 40 years old. They
Hmm.
baked a cake. We toasted it with champagne, and
Hmm.
I said, "This good for another 40 years." So we did celebrate 40 years with cake and champagne. So I'll be expecting that any minute now.
Well,
Uh,
I'll tell you what we're going to do. And this is impromptu, but I'm going to commit to it. For those of you coming to WizardCon, we're going to have something really special. We're going to do something special for the 45th of. I'll tell you, not many games get to 45
well,
and are still beloved and played, and your game is. And you know, the graciousness that you have to creators like me willing to come on my show and talk about the game, take your time up on a Sunday evening, it's greatly appreciated. It really is.
well,
And
I've had a lot of fun, and I told you earlier I have a gift for gab, and it
mhm,
helps when you're at a game convention.
yep,
By the fourth day, I lose my voice.
yeah,
That's how much talking I do at a game convention.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do something not quite sure yet, but we're definitely doing something for 45 for the 45th anniversary of your game at WizardCon. And again, thank you for coming on the show and everything. Hopefully, there'll be more coming from you, and we'll just wait and see how that goes. So,
Well,
Merle,
if I haven't been good looking, I hope I've been useful.
Merle, you're fine. Trust me, much appreciated. Everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight's show. You can go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us a lot. We're trying to grow the channel, so definitely subscribe if you can. Share the video on your social media. Let other people enjoy Merle and his input and him talking about his game. That also helps Merle and also maybe drives a few pennies and copper pieces to his sales pages. So, Merle, thank you very much for coming on.
Well,
Everybody, this is Don
yeah.
from
My
Wizard Tower
hat's off
Games.
to you, Don.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And we'll see everybody this week, coming up weekend at TotalCon. I will be there. Me and my wife will be. If you see me, swing by, tap me on the shoulder, say hi, like to talk to you. Other than that, this is Dom from Wizard Tower Games. Merle, thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
we will see each other